It's no secret that Dante is powerful, but there's one aspect of him that many people seem to glance over, his exalted weapon Noctua. Since many people subsume over the first ability that grants it, they tend to ignore it and not build it. But this ability offers insane utility, at least indirectly. Noctua is Dante's exalted weapon, a fully moddable secondary capable of using the tome mods, the only weapon other than the Grimoire. However, using this as a weapon is the least interesting thing about it. Instead, I want to dive into Final Verse and one of its sub-abilities. Let's switch our focus to Warden. You activate this ability by casting Light Verse, Dark Verse, and then Final Verse. The result is this little floating book, a copy of Noctua dealing 50% of the original damage, while also being boosted by most mods equipped on Noctua. All teammates in radius of your final cast will also receive a copy of Noctua. When you fire at enemies and hit them with your own weapons, the copy will fire as well, launching projectiles up to 9 times per second. There is seemingly no range limit here, however the projectiles have a pretty slow travel time over long distances, so don't expect to be sniping enemies with this very easily. Let's look at a build I'm currently testing and all the advantages that it can bring us. All we'll be using is status and element related mods. In this case I'm running Viral, Electric, Radiation, and Magnetic. Since multi-shot and fire rate don't affect Warden, there's really nothing else to slot here besides maybe Punch Through. There is one mod that may look out of place here, Pistol Elementalist. Well, since we will sometimes apply Magnetic with this, we might as well take advantage of Elementalist to boost extra damage from Overguard or Shields breaking while Magnetic status procs are on the target. In the Arcane slot, I have Secondary Encumber. As you can see, we got a pretty generic primer, all things considered. Now let's break down all the things this does for a Dante that fires their weapons. First off, we have a Pocket Primer. Warden is a very consistent applicator of whatever we decide to mod for with a build like this. Since it targets whatever you were hitting anyway, there isn't any real need to change your playstyle at all. Just hit enemies like you normally would. With an Encumber, this can apply up to 13 status effects, which is massive for gun CO mods. That's potentially 1560% increased damage from Galvanized shot on a secondary, but to be fair, most things won't live that long. Sticking with the topic of Encumber, this also means we can take advantage of Arcane Impetus on Dante. That's another 78% ability strength and 39% ability efficiency if we build up all 15 status effects. There's no real hoops to jump through to achieve this, and the stacks are maintained rather naturally on Dante. Modded with Electric, we also have a way to activate Archon Stretch without requiring a companion. This can be particularly useful for say Circuit, where you don't have access to a companion. And since we can also mod for Radiation for just a single mod slot, Arcane Universal Fallout is also an option. Warden counts as an ability, so the radiation it inflicts is valid for the creation of universal orbs while using Fallout. If you wanted a different way to assist your energy economy on Dante, this is actually a viable option. Though you may want to lower some of your other elemental weightings to increase the chance of landing radiation procs. If you wanted to use any elemental arcanes such as Arcane Hotshot on Dante, or Cascadia Flare and Primary Frostbite on weapons, well yeah, Warden would trigger those too, just mod for the appropriate elements. The only thing it seemingly doesn't do is actually activate the Canticle Tome mods. Nothing I tried seems to activate these mods without the use of Noctua itself. It's a shame, but honestly that's just me being greedy at this point. Anyway, that's what you can do with Noctua while never really using it. There's a couple other things to mention, so I'll just rattle them off in no particular order. This is mostly for how Warden affects your teammates. Okay, here we go. Secondary Encumber on your Warden can actually maintain your teammates' impetus stacks if they have it equipped. For some reason, Noctua modded for Electric can trigger your teammates' melee influence, even if they don't have Electric modded. It doesn't trigger your own melee influence though, so sorry, no funny melee influence Code of Mire slam build tech to use here. Despite that, Electric won't trigger your teammates' Archon Stretch for them. Guess they still have to use Doriga or a Panzer modded for Electric. If your teammates have Universal Fallout equipped, giving the Warden buff to them while modded for Radiation will allow the Noctua copy to trigger it. However, your teammates' Noctua can't trigger your equipped Universal Fallout. If your teammates have Secondary Fortifier equipped, they will gain Overguard from Warden's damage for some reason. But putting Fortifier on your modded Noctua won't give teammates Overguard, only yourself. Still useful if you want extra passive Overguard, I suppose. But that's just a handful of things I've tested and noticed. But there's probably more jank to be found. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this one. Were you already taking advantage of Noctua like this? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and as always, thanks for watching.